My man revved this car to 9,000 RPMs.
For 5 years.
Yep. Did you buy this, or did this come off of something special?
So I had a Miltech downpipe off of like an RS6, I think it was, an Audi RS6.
Just one of those laying around.
He
has a Bluetooth oil temperature sensor right here. Looks like this one completely failed. I can see it broken with all the pins down inside there. So that's interesting. You see right here, looks like something interesting's happening. Oh, what's that? Oh, we have no valve. There you go. Oh, puppy.
Look at that damage. Oh,
that's it.
There we go. Wow. Nice.
All right, so we're back with another episode on AHC Garage. We have our good buddy Tadashi here from Apollo Auto Concierge.
Thanks for having me.
And absolutely, we have his beautiful EK over here. And we also have this motor. And I don't know why we have this motor, and it already has motor in the car, but that's kind of what the story's about tonight. This one's a little bit different. I think it's a pretty special episode because we're going to break things down a little different. So, this motor used to be in this car, and it ran into some issues, and we're going to take it apart and see where the failure was at. And that failure led to this new engine being assembled and put into this car. So first we're going to tell you a little bit about this car, and we'll tell you how this motor broke, and then we're going to take it apart and see exactly what broke. Here we are, and just to let you know more about it, I'm going to let this guy tell you because it's his car. It's his blood, sweat, and tears and money in this thing. And tell us what it is. What year is this, and how did it start, and how did it get to this point?
About 2019, I bought this car, and it was already K-swapped. It had that Type-R motor in it. It's a 2004 DC5R motor from HMO Motors.
What year is this?
The chassis is a 96.
So a 96 DX.
DX. And so it was already swapped when I got it. It had the stock interior in it, which was in really nice condition because the car only had like 87,000 miles on it.
It's a nice
So it's a great donor. It's been repainted once before, but it looks like the plastics look good for its age.
Yeah.
So when I got it, I basically just enjoyed it because it ran good. It had all the suspension changed out, but eventually I wanted a little more performance. So, I changed out the injectors. I got it retuned by Durf Morales. I started changing suspension components, and the car started to get more and more motorsports oriented.
So that's your end goal is you're not a drag racer, although everyone likes to, see how
when I first got it, that's what it was. It was kind of just like my commuter car. I drove this thing to Jupiter 3 times a week from Fort Lauderdale.
Oh yeah,
so
you put a lot of miles
on it. It was a long drive. I put AC in it. I just wanted it to be like complete.
Yeah, and reliable.
Yeah, and reliable.
And fun.
And it got, some runs in on the street.
Yeah,
we don't condone that kind of activity.
It held its own bone stock internally Type-R. It's the motor, well, not this one, but that one. The car was completely bone stock, like you said, injectors, bolt-ons, stuff like that in the tuning.
Yep.
But for the most part, internally completely stock the way you got it.
Right.
With no real internal maintenance done to it. No timing chains or tensioner or any of that? Or?
Well, it was already done.
Oh, okay. So all that
when
was
the
done.
swap was put in there, the timing guides were done, the tensioner was done. Basically, I just did the valve adjustment and confirmed that everything the previous owner had told me had been done to the engine was done, and it just looked very clean. It always ran very good. I constantly went back to the dyno to double check that the horsepower numbers weren't dropping, that the compression was always good. I did countless oil analysis
on it
because I was driving the car really hard, and if there was any indication that it was time to take it out for an overhaul, I wanted to do it immediately.
Yeah.
One thing I should have done earlier on is put valve springs in it.
So that leads us to the failure point. So Tad being a good friend of mine, and we spent a lot of time together, I've got to see the car kind of transform from that state into this state, and that has come with track racing. Started with autocross, started to Homestead track days and stuff like that, and he was really pushing this car really good. And then I know we'll put the car up and take a look underneath. and you can see what he was able to do with just suspension tunings and setup. Not really worrying about horsepower or anything along those lines, just setup and learning the car and figuring out how to push it. That being said, my man revved this car to 9,000 RPMs
for 5 years.
Very, very many times, and that, as we assume, led to a valve floating and some piston to valve contact is what we assume is going on here, but we'll get to see a little bit more of that when we crack the motor apart. So here we are, we're at the back of the car, and we'll go over some of the stuff we got going on here. Everything is very sorted on this car, and it's set up in a way that he can do quick checks to see if things are coming loose, things are paint markered. And tell us a little bit more about what you got going on here. I see the sway bar, I see control arms, but there's also some more stuff. I see honed stuff that like we have on my hatch, which me and you have talked about, and you're my inspiration for the stuff that I put on my car is this car. So show us what you got here.
And you know, not for nothing, anytime I do have an idea, like we bounce ideas off of each other, and it's pretty basic. So we got the ASR sway bar set up in the back.
These are nice because they have the reinforcements behind the back, so you don't rip the subframe out, which is something that happens on these cars.
We have the sway bar set on full stiff, and then the full geometry correction by Honda Developments. So it drops the pickup points in the rear lower control arms for, you know, better efficiency really in the rear end. You can get a much stiffer outcome with less dampening settings, where you don't have to, you actually have to soften up the rear once you do this geometry correction because it becomes so efficient in the back.
It definitely handles significantly better. I know we put it on David's car before the Dragon, and he really enjoyed it on his car as well. You did something kind of weird with your rear brakes too. What did you end up doing with that?
Oh, right. So these are the EP3 brackets, right, that hold the Integra rear calipers. That allows you to run an EP3 4x100 rear rotor.
So you're getting a larger rotor in the rear,
but
with all OEM parts. That's the other great thing about Hondas. I call them Lego sets. You take from this car to that car, and it all works, bolts on, and gives you performance from different cars. And the other part you have from Honda too, I believe you did their camber kit.
Correct.
And their tow kit as well. And this is also a Greddy SP Supreme 3-inch K-swapped exhaust on here. That thing is beautiful. It's always really nice to hear. And I know you also he did something what a lot of, I'll call us Honda boys don't do, is he put a high flow cat in here. It's like a race cell cat, right?
It's a 200 cell HGS cat, and I put this on here really strictly for sound. These Honda engines tend to have a really raspy sound, and I wanted to clean it up a little bit. It's such a high revving engine, I wanted to hear more of that induction sound.
Did you buy this, or did this come off of something special?
So I had a Miltech downpipe off of like an RS6, I think it was, an Audi RS6.
Just one of those laying around.
It was laying around. I think it was a display that I didn't have to send back or anything. So I ended up taking that cat and repurposing it with this exhaust system when it was brand new. When I bought it, I knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted the 200 cell cat to work with everything and just quiet it down a little bit. So I had to shift this back about like 12 inches, and I added a flex pipe. And
he did all this on his own too, by the way. Not much on this car has been outsourced. I'd say 99% of everything has been done in-house by him, which is pretty cool. So let's move up here. You have some pretty cool stuff up here too as well. I see this is the hybrid no-cut.
Yes.
That's the 2nd gen, I believe, or 1st gen, I'm not sure. I know the new one's black, I think. But that's pretty nice too. You have, what do you got going on here?
These are the PCI rear compliance bushings, and this is one of my favorite upgrades for these cars. A lot of people tend to stay away from them because they think it's going to make noise or it's going to be very harsh, but it's really not that. You know, you can run them with hardened bushing control arms in the front and still get a very sporty feel with these control arms. You don't get a lot of like unwanted noise or anything like that. And
these control arms also are pretty special as well. They are from PCI.
Yep.
They're spherical.
Yes, they're spherical.
And they also have another neat advantage to them, too.
They have built-in caster.
So he has additional caster added into this, and the saying goes, caster makes your car faster through the turns. It helps you a lot when you're cornering.
Correct.
But it also throws the car into different other areas of clearance issues because you're moving your wheel forward. Yes. But he also counteracted that with a different upper control arm.
The upper control arms also have caster adjustability. And how that works is it brings the wheel back some. So you shift the bottom of the wheel forward, or the lower control arm forward, and you shift the top control arm back, and you have double the caster. Initially,
You're moving your spindle like this.
I was a little concerned that it'd be too much caster.
Yeah, and hit your headlight, because I know that was a concern for you.
Yes, but you know, it does all work now, and it ended up being a very positive improvement in the car's handling.
And it is paired with the honed front geometry correction with their tie rod ends, which we did on my car as well, and their lower ball joints, which are wrapped in heat tape because he's super cool and likes to race car things. That brings us up to the front end here. He did a really cool radiator set up on here, built his own shroud into this as well. Has a really clean setup for his cold air intake on here, which I don't believe in those. David and me argue about it all the time, but you know, I'm not a race car guy. He has a Bluetooth oil temperature sensor right here. This is in the works, but this will bring us to the engine. This is a really awesome build. We're gonna show you some of the clips of that, and let's go ahead and we'll bring it down and start talking about the motor from the top. All right, so now we're back under the hood, and we're gonna give you a brief rundown of what's going on here and what the new setup is, and compared to the stock setup that came out, hurt, blown up.
Yep.
Yeah. So what do we have here?
So this is another DC5R motor.
So same motor?
Yes.
But is it the same?
It's been rebuilt. It has RRC pistons instead of the PRB pistons.
So it's got some more compression in it. I know it's got a thinner layer head gasket as well.
It's got a spoon head gasket in it, and also flat valves that bump up the compression too.
I don't know if you can catch it there, but there's a little insignia on the side of the head that means something special too.
Four piston, they CNC'd the whole head.
So it's 4 pistons. I think it was a 3-axis CNC port job on it, with their valve train and their cams in it as well.
Correct.
And so it's slightly bumped compression.
Just enough to run the camshafts. We estimate it to be around like 12 to 3, 12 4.
So higher compression, bigger cams. And altogether, it's not a peak horsepower build. That's not what the idea was behind this. The idea behind this is power band for the track, usable horsepower. We know that there's other different setups that may make more power in there, but that wasn't the absolute goal of this. It's more about the power band of the whole thing, and that's paired with what kind of transmission.
And also respecting the engine for what it is. It's a Type-R motor. I didn't want to yank the pistons out of it and put forged slugs in it. I didn't think it needed it.
Yeah.
I was able to get the desired compression I needed to run the camshafts, just using OEM parts, but balanced to 0.02 of a gram.
Oh yeah, we'll show you some footage in here of the assembly, which was very satisfying to be part of. I appreciate you letting me be there to,
of course,
at least assist you in that. It was in a very beautiful shop, done to a very specific way with very different things done. This is the motor he's wanted to build, and he built it the way he wanted to build it, and that's something we got to do. Nevertheless, as if you may have seen in our other AHC video, we did have to take it apart in the Buc-ee's parking lot in Daytona and replace the timing chain tensioner in the rain. I didn't, you did. I sat in my car and watched you. But
I was determined not to go home. I was not going home. I was going to complete the trip. Dragon prep, 2 weeks out, building the engine.
Yeah, right?
Sick.
14 days and counting from this moment. 14 days and counting from this moment. We're going to be on the Dragon. With this, somehow this will all be going, and then Dad will be trying to race David over and over again.
That's my dream.
Now it's not good anymore.
It's bent. Of course, that's the one that I need, right?
It's good. This one. So the power between the two, not a significant difference in horsepower between the two. There was some more horsepower realized, but the idea was not peak horsepower.
Just
and
reliability.
Reliability and be able to take it to the track and beat on it. That being said, that's a brief overview of what we did. Let's get into pulling apart the motor. That's why we're here tonight. So the story behind this motor, the circumstances around the failure was at Homestead Motor Speedway on a track day event.
Yep.
After putting in a couple of laps, I think you got a few laps.
No,
in?
it was actually on the second lap.
Second lap, so
Between
you had a
turn
warm up.
6, yeah.
Yeah.
First hot lap, we're on the back straight between 6 and 7. I shift into third, and I rev it all the way out, shift into fourth, and it's a longer gear. You know, about midway through the straight, I just lose power. And I've had different things fail on the car, like I've had problems with the K-tune harness.
Or like an
you know,
ejector or something.
or something like that. So I was like, all right, what's going on? I even tried cranking it one more time at the end of the straight after I pulled off, and I heard no compression. And I was like, oh no. And
So-
that's when I got towed back into the pits.
So we haven't taken it apart at all, and now you're going to get to see what happened. And we'll tell you a little bit more about this motor as we take it apart. So let's start ripping it down. So we already see something. When I opened up the valve cover, a little roller pin came out. The K-Series runs rollers on the valve tappets here, and it looks like this one completely failed. I can see it broken with all the pins down inside there. So that's interesting. That's news to us on this so far. What do you think about that?
I think it's crazy. All the keepers are in.
Yeah.
All the retainers are still on there.
But that blew up.
I really didn't know what to expect.
All right, well, let's keep breaking it down. We'll get the side cover off so we can work on pulling the head off.
Oh, bro, that's crazy. Oh, man, this kind of hurts. Wow.
Wow, that's wild. I've never seen something split apart like that. More pins. Want to leave those in there? You disassemble. Okay. That's so wild. I feel like that has nothing to do with that. With the bottom end, I don't know. It's boom. I'll tell you what, the tensioner looks really good on this one. Let's see.
Everything looks
So-
good so far.
This is all original to the car, right? Well, original. The guy updated it at one point, so this is not the original one, but this is stock. These are replaced. I'm sure the chain's been replaced at one time too. Do you want to attempt to zip tie this, or do you want to just put it all in the valve cover? Or do you want,
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could zip tie it. Attempt to zip tie it?
That's what I'm saying. Being a smart ass, bro.
I think a nap.
You working?
Yeah, 1 a.m.
All right, Poppy.
Ooh, that's not good.
There you go. Good looking.
You know, I remember doing this recently at Buc-ee's.
I remember seeing you doing it. They're like, they come up to me, they go, he pulled the cams out of his motor in the parking lot. And I go, And I think what my mind said was, that's not how Cosworth would do it. There you go. What you can see here is this is the VTEC center lobe. And this is what it's supposed to look like with a roller. And there's needle bearings under that. And what you can see right here is half of it right there. The other half is down there. And there we go. And that goes together and that rolls on here. And that's what the cam rides on. It looks like the cam took a little bit of a hit. Not horrible. I'm not going to lie. I would expect that it would have been a little bit worse. So that's not bad news, to be 100% honest. I think your cams are still in decent shape.
It's a good thing.
So now what we're going to do, so we can keep this all clean and together, is we're going to zip tie these all together. Oh, look at this. Oh no, that was just a hair. I thought it was a crack.
Oh God.
We're going to zip tie the rockers together because once we take this off, their spring load is going to want to come apart. So to keep everything clean together, we're going to go ahead and give this a quick shot and zip tie it together.
Looks like I'm beating you.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm here in support staff. You know.
Everything's a race.
Yeah, well, with you, yes, everything is a race. So I asked Mel, I go, Mel, I saw Tad came up on you pretty hard and you got out the way. He goes, I'm used to driving in the mountains. I don't mind if someone comes up on me like that. I just get out the way.
I was being nice too.
You were being nice. And I was about to get on the radio and yell at you, but I didn't. Now, there's not many things I'm bad at, but putting zip ties on rockers might be that thing. Tad is built differently, and I think he can do it better than me.
Like a K series.
Yeah.
John's built like a B series.
I'm old.
Obsolete.
They say I'm to belong in a museum. But you know what? I'm okay with that, buddy. Because like I say, I'm still got a little class left in me. But you see right here, looks like something interesting's happening. Oh, what's that? Oh, we have no valve. But the retainer and the keepers
Wow.
stayed in the right
Is
position.
the valve stem tip in there?
No.
Where'd that go?
Yeah, there's not. That's interesting. So let's take this guy out the way. This reminds me of a B series head I've seen.
Oh, that's the valve seal spring.
Yeah.
That's supposed to go like that.
Oh, it sat right there, huh? All right, so now we got zip ties on everything. We're going to take these 210s out, and then we're going to take the rocker assembly off of the motor, and that'll give us access to the head bolts.
This can still be saved, I think.
I think so. All right. That may push itself apart anyways. Sorry. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. You see there. And then down in here, you can see all the pins from the failed roller that gave out there. So let's, I think it's time to pull the head off, right? We need a 12.14. When you're loosening a head or anything that is like this on the aluminum head where you have multiple bolts, you want to always start from the outside and work your way in.
Just like at Buc-ee's. I didn't want to believe.
I thought it was pretty funny when David goes, "That's your timing chain tensioner." I know, because last year before we went on the trip, about a week before we left, his tensioner exploded in a similar fashion to yours, and I had to change that in the garage. Not that I wanted to. But the show must go on, right?
If you want to see something interesting that I just noticed, I see a little bit of a milkshake residue right here.
Oh yeah, you see there's some water oil mixing here. Now, that being said, that could possibly be only in that one spot, humidity.
Could be.
It's possible. You see it right here. Because you see the oil still looks pretty decent. But that being said, we don't totally know. There you go. Oh, puppy.
Look at that damage.
It looks like someone was partying inside that cylinder. But you know what? Cylinder isn't cracked. Cylinder is not cracked.
That's one of the worst I've ever seen.
So what we got here is, it looks like this valve dropped, which it might even come out of there. With a little persuasion. I'm going to try and get her out. There we go. So this valve, it looks like the at high RPMs, it either the keeper failed or the tip of the valve failed, and this head went riding around in the cylinder, and like a fist, if you want to compare the piston to that, just beat that valve head into the head. Now this is repairable, and I don't think it's that bad at all. I've seen these a lot worse when the combustion chambers are crossed over and the spark plug tube is gone. But that's definitely repairable. It's going to take a little bit of effort, but you know, Tadashi has a very emotional attachment to this motor. And so let's go ahead and get the pan off and see if we can't pull the piston out and see what it looks like inside there. Oh, there we go. This is already exciting. I'm seeing lots of interesting failures on this that like I wasn't expecting. I was expecting the valve stem to still be there, because every car I've ever really seen drop a valve, the valve stem usually stays. But the fact that it came off the keeper is kind of interesting.
This thing would have sat for so long. I would have never wanted to do this.
Look at that. What is that? Oof. What is this? Is this the oil pan?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
Baffling system.
Yeah, there's some chunky stuff inside there. I thought that was attached to the oil pan.
Nope, this is a drop-in oil pan baffle. See, the drain plug sits right about here.
That's pretty neat. I've never seen a baffle like that.
Ooh, this one's kind of sticky.
Well, I see what looks like piston material. That's what I'd have to say. That looks like a Japanese piston to me.
Wow. There's a lot.
Oh, that's an oil ring.
Oof.
Yeah, that's just, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, here's some more metal. This is nice.
Very violent.
I appreciate a violent end to a good motor. They shouldn't go out with a whimper. They should go out with a bang.
It definitely...
Do you see the attention to details dropping as he disassembles the motor? See the emotion. The 10? Oh, here's one. The mag. That is... I like the assortment of different things in here. I see compression rings, I see oil rings.
I'm gonna make keychains out of that stuff.
Oh, you should do that. I remember Kyle did that on the Busa Boys when he blew his motor up.
Did
he
he?
sold pieces of the blown up
Oh
engine.
God.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna give them away at the Honda meet.
Yeah. Anyone want a piece of some 9,000 RPM Honda Type-R stuff? You know, I noticed on the pickup there wasn't a ton of metal.
Yeah.
I think that the end to this motor came fast and abrupt.
Yeah. It was definitely fast. Always fast.
Oh, there's another ring.
Ooh.
Oil?
Oil, yep.
Yeah. You're supposed to take connecting rods off. But obviously they're not going to be used again.
I'm completely prepared to sleeve this engine and punch it out to something substantial.
Sounds expensive.
Like you said, this engine has sentimental value to me, so I'd like
Hey.
to make a return.
No problem. I'm saying it might be able to do it without spending $5 million, but you know.
Saving money is always
I'll tell
good.
you what, that's not the way Cosworth would do it.
Saving money? Oh no.
No. But it does turn over good, and usually these
It
things
does.
lock up when they explode.
And I'm glad the crank is okay. 'Cause
Yeah, that's another important thing.
Yeah.
What happens if you put this crank in a 2.4 block?
It would de-stroke it too much, I think. I don't think
much?
that's ever
Oh.
been done. Yeah.
Well, we also have that motor that David destroyed too that has a bad crank. That's the piston that had a party. Mm-hmm. Or the valve. I think it's the valve that showed up to the party.
They all had a really good time.
Yeah, it was like a mosh pit inside there.
Yeah. Ooh. All right. Let's check this
See what
stuff
your
out.
bearing looks like.
Okay, clean. Very clean.
It didn't starve of oil.
No,
All
that
right,
means
coming
the-
out in my hand. Push it down to me. Almost there. Oh, I can stick my finger in the hole in the piston, I think, and pull it out.
Oh, it's,
That's it.
there we go. Wow. Nice.
Nope. Not bad, actually.
Okay, very typical. The engine,
So the good
running
thing
good.
is I don't even think it has a horrible bend to it. The wrist pin stayed together, barely. It's only connected here and back here, so that's pretty cool.
let's check those cylinder walls.
Yeah, I know you're anxious to see that, aren't you? I'm kind of impressed. I see some up here. That's
That's not too
that's
bad.
probably the worst damage is right here. I think that's where the valve. This is totally
You
savable.
know, John, you're right. It's not as bad as I thought.
That might be a half over. You might be able to save this block. That's the biggest concern right there, which
Yeah.
isn't that bad. That'll come right out.
Yeah, the rings don't even touch up there.
Yeah, as long as I think this would use an overbore and a deck, and I think this block would be good. I would call this a lucky blow explosion.
Not what I would have expected.
No, I thought it was going to be a little bit more. I was expecting a cracked cylinder. So,
Me too.
well, let's keep pulling her apart,
All right.
and then I think. Do you want to get the crank out of it tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going. I like the sound of metal just falling out of it.
Ask Dave, he knows.
I'm not mad at that.
No.
That looks like good wear.
Oh, some trash got into cylinder number 3.
Yeah,
Right, this is 3?
yeah.
It must have bounced around
Bounced
in the
around,
intake
yeah.
manifold and then got into the cylinder.
So it nicked the piston, huh?
Man, I had to clean a lot of carnage out of the intake manifold, which was reused on that car.
It's
a lot
pretty
of cleaning.
impressive when an engine blows how the momentum of everything causes it to go backwards out of the motor. It's engine explosions are totally impressive to me. It's one of the highlights of my jobs. I love getting to see how an engine that's been put together so finely to run at high RPMs reacts when catastrophic failure is involved.
No, I'm worried about that.
And your motor's been running good too.
Yeah.
Minimal carbon deposits on it. Oil ring is not built up with carbon. We see a lot of that on the scraper rings. Wiper, scraper, whatever you want to call her. Cross-hatching still totally visible on all the cylinders too. Get a light on there. So I see the oil squirter got damaged on that one cylinder. We have some damage at the top of the cylinder where the valve hit, which isn't deep. I mean, it's too deep to run, but it's not too deep to repair. This is totally savable. The other cylinders, you can see where they've been running pretty clean. Typical wear, actually light wear compared to some of the regular automatic cars that we get in, where you see the shiny spot on the side. Usually when they have more wear, that's not as visible, but all the cross hatching still visible everywhere. I think you've lucked out on this one. I'm gonna go with that. I think this is totally savable, bottom end, minimal expense to it. That doesn't mean he's going to be cheap about it, but you know. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about other things.
It's a very distinct smell.
Mm-hmm. Should get everything in here vapor honed. It's coming. It sounds like a Honda. Here, hand me that. I'll take it. Main bearings.
A little bit of trash in that one. And in here.
It doesn't look like that transferred to any wear on the actual crank though.
Nice.
Crank looks pretty good, man. That's gonna hold you up a little bit. There you go.
See the stamp? Hey John, remember you asked me how do you identify a Type R crank?
Yeah.
Check this out. There's an R on it.
So does that mean R, Type R?
I think so.
At least that's what signifies it, right?
Yep.
That doesn't necessarily mean Type R, but in a Type R crank, that's the marking. Yeah. Little wear.
I've always found it amazing how long these engines can run and show very minimal wear.
Yeah,
on this stuff.
that means the spec is really tight on them.
Yeah.
Honda motors rev higher than most other factory motors do, and that's because of stuff like the specs on the mains, specs on the connecting rods, clearances, piston to wall. All that means a lot. You know, there's a lot of, what's it called? The
Harmonics?
no, the you know, plus or minus with the specs. The tight
Tolerance?
end tolerance. There's given the tolerance in the spec, but that doesn't mean Honda builds it to a fatter tolerance
Right.
or that. Bearings are half-sized, green, yellow, and even when we're doing our crank recalls and piston rod bearing recalls, they're half-sizing them to get them to the tighter spec. They're not just within the spec, which is nice to know that that's how you get the longevity out of the motor. And also on the newer ones, they're running like 20 weight oils and and that's going to help you with your efficiency on the motor too. So all the specs mean a lot. And this car, with the amount of abuse he's put through it, really shows minimum wear on most of all of the components, except for the ones that exploded and blew the motor up. All right, so we have the whole thing tore down, and through what we are assuming is the failure this is the top of the valve where the keepers would grab it, where it goes into the retainer. It looks as if the tip of the valve snapped off, causing the valve here to break off and fall into the engine. And while the valve still had the rest of the stem on it, this was pushing it up into the head, causing a ton of damage inside the combustion chamber. But that being said, this is totally savable in the head, and the damage on the cylinder walls inside the block looks like it can be overboard and saved. The crank is good. So in the end, you may have a lot of broken pieces and you may have a mess, but you also have a lot of good pieces left. And who knows when he's ready to do it, maybe we can get a video of him building this thing back and a little bit of the process. So, I mean, are you happy with what you found tonight?
Honestly, no. I would have liked to have taken it apart and been like, hey, yeah, everything's okay.
Yeah, no
but
problem.
We knew that wasn't going to happen. But it's actually surprisingly, there's a lot of damage, but it's not as bad as I thought.
Yeah,
I think a lot of the things are savable, like you said.
I think we were really expecting the cylinder to be cracked, and that's really where I think the bottom end is 100% savable with a slight overbore. And I mean, the machine shop will end up deciding what that is. But he may end up going a completely different route, sleeving it, use a crank, do whatever it is. But for this episode, I thought it was pretty cool. We got to meet Tadashi a little bit more up close, get in touch with his car, and see what happens when you take a Honda Integra Type-R motor and for 5 years you send it to 9,000 RPMs without even doing anything to it. Eventually this could be your failure, but I think miles per gallon, you're doing pretty good on the fun. It's miles per gallon?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Many miles per gallon. This engine lived in VTEC, and it will come to a life again. I believe that 100%. But thank you guys very much for watching this episode. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let us know what you think about how Tadashi blew the motor up. I think he could have blown it up a little bit more dramatically. I'm a little...
Maybe next time.
The motor's still turned over. I like them when they're locked up tight or the rod takes a peekaboo out the block. But that's it for this episode. Be sure to watch, follow, and get ready for the next one.